Canadians and Americans are kind of sussing each other out right now. Yes, there's a trade war going on. Yes, Canadians are boycotting American goods because of it. But on an individual level, can we trust each other? Is the cross-border friendship that has been there for centuries really still there? Two border towns are saying, yes, it is. And they're even putting it down formally in writing. That's today's story of the day.
Support for Story of the Day comes from the Wild Center in Tupper Lake, dedicated to strengthening visitors' connections to the natural world. More at wildcenter.org.
Hey, I'm David Sommerstein. It's Monday, August 4th. First up, New York's top leader is weighing in on an issue unfolding in Texas. Republican leaders in Texas are trying to redraw district lines to favor their party, which has sparked a group of Democrats to flee the state to avoid a vote on the issue. In response, Governor Kathy Hochul said the days of nonpartisan redistricting in New York should be over. John Campbell reports for the New York Public News Network.
The governor welcomed 6 Texas lawmakers to the state capitol in Albany, all of them Democrats who fled their home state to derail Republican efforts to redraw the congressional map. Hochul says if the GOP does overhaul the Texas map, Democrats in New York should do the same.
This is a war. We are at war. And that's why the gloves are off, and I say, bring it on.
But New York's constitution doesn't allow for redistricting until the next census. Amending it is a multi-year process that requires voter approval. The earliest that could happen is for the 2028 congressional elections. In Albany, I'm John Campbell for the New York Public News Network.
About 20 colorful paintings have popped up at John Brown State Historic Site in Lake Placid. They're part of a traveling exhibit called Americans Who Tell the Truth by Maine-based artist Robert Shetterly. Over the last 2 decades, Shetterly has painted nearly 300 portraits of activists he considers to be the truth tellers of history. They include well-known names like Congressman John Lewis and the abolitionist Frederick Douglass, but also local activists working on issues like racial justice and climate change. He spoke with David Escobar.
We live in an era now of just obsessive lying in our politics. But the stage has been set for the last 75 years by politicians and various groups, lying to the American people without any accountability, which has got us into a very, very dark place, both politically and environmentally. And I kept thinking I needed to do something in response with my art. I was not a political artist at that point. I was a surrealist. I loved ambiguity and mystery and looking at all kinds of human issues without saying, this is right or this is wrong. But when the run-up to the Iraq War was happening, I was so full of rage that I kept thinking, I've got to do something with this enormous energy I'm feeling at this moment, but not negatively. I've got to take that energy and do something positive with it. Finally, one day it occurred to me, I had a quote from Walt Whitman pinned up on the wall in my studio. And I saw that quote, the one that begins, "This is what you shall do. Love the earth, the sun, and the animals." It's Whitman's commandment about how to live a good life. And I thought, man, I'll paint his portrait. I'll scratch those words into it and I'll feel better. That's really what I was trying to do at first. Just feel better, find a way to feel less alienated from what this country was doing. It worked wonders on me. I thought I would do a few portraits and then I would go back to whatever I was before, but that became impossible. Once I'd spend time with Frederick Douglass and Sojourner Truth and Harriet Tubman and Jane Addams and, Mother Jones and people like that, I didn't want to be anywhere else. I wanted to be with them all the time.
Or what do these portraits look like for our audience members?
They're like a real stripped down version of a portrait. The only thing that is painted with great detail in the painting is the person's face. And the point I want to make that everything you need to know about this person is right there in that face. But I want no distractions except the language. On the portrait, I've written the name of the person, and I've written a very serious quote from that person about an issue. And so what I was trying to do is get people to stop long enough to look at the face, read the quote, think about what this might mean in relationship to themselves, ask themselves, well, this is a portrait that's called An American Who Tells the Truth. Is this the truth? You might, investigate that a little bit. I mean, ask yourself, do I agree with that? And if I do agree with it, what should I do in response? I want these questions to be asked. In a way, I don't want this to be about me. Forget me and only see the person in the portrait.
That was artist Robert Shetterly. His portrait series, Americans Who Tell the Truth, is on view at John Brown Farm in Lake Placid through October. He spoke with David Escobar. As President Donald Trump's trade war with Canada continues, tensions are high between Washington and Ottawa. Leaders in Plattsburgh and Cornwall say that doesn't have to be the case for their communities. Kara Chapman has more.
It's a windy day at the Bluff Point Golf Resort on the shores of Lake Champlain. Plattsburgh Town Supervisor Michael Cashman and Justin Towndale, mayor of the Canadian city of Cornwall, are flanked by their country's respective flags. Cashman says they're here to cap off a day-long ambassador friendship visit in Plattsburgh.
The cornerstone of today is what we're about to do, and we are going to sign a declaration of friendship.
They have copies in English and French. Cashman reads the document out loud.
Our histories, our economies, our cultures reflect the unique bonds between our nations, the United States and Canada, and is here at the local level that we reaffirm the enduring relationship between our neighbors.
This compact is symbolic. Its purpose is to show unity in the face of real and ongoing challenges to the U.S.-Canada relationship. The two countries are in the midst of a trade war started by President Donald Trump. On Friday, he raised tariffs on many Canadian goods to 35%. Trump has also threatened to make Canada the 51st state. All that, and a weak Canadian dollar, have led many Canadians to boycott U.S. goods and travel. Canada's Statistics Agency reports that the number of Canadian residents returning to the U.S. by car declined by a third in June compared to the year before. Towndale, the mayor of Cornwall, says it's no secret that many Canadians are insulted by Trump's rhetoric.
It's like your best friend suddenly turning around and really saying something hurtful to you, despite you being friends all your life. It takes time to heal that. And I think that's what we're seeing. If Canadians don't feel appreciated and they feel attacked, they're going to make different decisions.
Local businesses, like the Bluff Point Golf Resort, are really feeling the impacts of those decisions. Owner Paul Dame says business is down 18 to 20% this year. Some of his longtime Canadian customers have told him they don't plan to return, at least until Trump is out of office.
If what I'm hearing from my customers that it's going to be until a change of administration, that's going to be tougher than the pandemic was, which is pretty hard to fathom.
Still, Dame is staying optimistic. So is Cornwall Mayor Towndale. He says local governments have a role to play to ensure a strong relationship between the two countries, even as officials at higher levels wage a trade war.
We can still work together diplomatically to advocate for a resolution to the trade conflict that is happening currently between our two countries and reaffirm the friendship at this level. I think that's important to state. We're still friends. And we have to get past this hurdle in our long relationship.
And the hope is that these efforts expand. Towndale is part of the Border Mayors Alliance in Canada. The group's members are reaching out to their American counterparts to set up more collaborations like this. The initiative hasn't included formal efforts to bring everyday Cornwall and Plattsburgh residents together. But Cashman says those community members can also be ambassadors of friendship.
If you see a license plate from Canada, welcome them down to Plattsburgh. If we go north, that could be reciprocated the same way. There's a lot of national noise, but this is about people to people.
Cashman heads to Cornwall for a reciprocal visit this week. Kara Chapman, North Country Public Radio, Plattsburgh.
I want to give a deep, deep thanks to everyone who gave extra donations to help NCPR dig out of our federal funding cut. Last week, our members cut the shortfall in half. Incredible. The passion, the dedication to local journalism, to localism in general, to believing in this place, and the need for local media to exist here. We'll have more to say about the next steps, but today I just want to say thank you so much for your generosity and for your community spirit. Music today by Matthew Johnson of Sackett's Harbor and Pat Johnson of Athens, Ontario. How's that for cross-border collaboration? I'm David Summerstein, North Country Public Radio.